Are storage units a good investment in the game of real estate? And how would they compare to single-family homes, for example? My name's Kris Krohn with Limitless Wealth TV, and today we're going to explore the answer to that question. So recently we got a fantastic comment from someone that said, Stephen, Kris, single-family home versus self-storage. Because you know what, we've heard this. If you're in real estate at all, you can hear the dreams about if you own this storage unit and you've got hundreds of units and it turns into this really great cash cow. And it's a really popular idea, especially with 50,000 self-storage units around the United States.
I mean, the reality, Kris, is 1 in 10 families in America use self-storage. I haven't done all the math, but that's a lot of people.
It's over a $200 billion industry for investing in that kind of real estate. So it's totally noteworthy and absolutely worth talking about today. And I actually want to just pay props over to Peter Harris with Commercial Property Advisors. He's got a great channel out there where he's talking about, and he's a huge proponent for this idea of you should get into self-storage. And today we're really going to talk about, is it a good idea? Is it a bad idea? What do you think, Stephen?
Well, you know, there are a lot of similarities with what we do. We do single-family residences, bought below the median. We do this entry-level home market. This is where kind of our bread and butter has been over the last 10 years. And when I look at self-storage, there are some great similarities, but there's also some wide gaps that we want to talk about as well. Some of the similarities are the marketplace. Like we said before, 1 in 10 Americans want and use self-storage. Well, we know that 33% of Americans need a rental property, right? And so they can't buy, they can't qualify for a loan, whatever the case is. And so there's a large portion of the marketplace that needs either the self-storage or the rental market. This is a very good similarity.
Well, and there's some other great things about self-storage. You're going to have incremental vacancies. You're going to have low turnover. On average, people will stay in a unit for 1, 2, or 3 years. That's better than an average. Yeah, you've got some people that will rent a home and stay in it for multiple years, but sometimes they're going to vacate after just 1 year. So you've got a lot, and this is what we're looking for is we want to compare as best as possible apples to apples. And that's a little challenging to do when you're comparing residential real estate with commercial grade real estate. Because I would say that even though this is a very viable approach, and while I've heard that there are fantastic ROIs in it, there's a couple of things that I would personally cautious against. Sure. And to help you understand that, I want to help you understand what Stephen and I stand for and the reason why we have our Limitless Wealth channel. It's because we're taking a stand for the nobodies that want to become a somebodies, because we're those nobodies. We know what it is to not come from privileged homes, privileged families. We didn't have anyone, propping us up and really giving us a start. Certainly no silver spoon in life. And the reality is that we are freedom fighters for you, for every person out there that says, I want more from life. And obviously the wealthy have something figured out, but I don't know what that is. And this channel is dedicated towards helping you, any of you that consider yourself a nobody, any of you that look at your bank account and you say, wow, I know I have self-worth, but it's absolutely not reflecting on my balance sheet. And if you feel like there's more for your life, and that's why you're part of our channel, part of our tribe here, then we're here to let you know, we're here to fight for you, which means we've got a responsibility to help you understand which investments are going to be harder and which investments are going to be easier. And right now, bottom line, if we talk commercial will always have a higher barrier of entry. And that just means that it works less for the nobodies, the guys like you and I that are trying to pull ourselves out of the mud and get somewhere with our lives.
Yeah, commercial is a weeder, right? It's kind of like your OChem class that you talk about often. Taking OChem. I had to bring it up.
Trying to get back at
me. You get in and the teacher says, I'm going to fail you and good luck, right? That's kind of what commercial real estate is for the average person, right? Even Grant Cardone talked about, we did a video, Kris, you did a video a while back where you kind of debunked a lot of what Grant Cardone said. He said, hey, get into multifamily, get into these big commercial properties because this is what I do. And yeah, that sounds great, but you're Grant Cardone. And most of us here aren't Grant Cardone yet, and we don't have millions and millions and millions of dollars to put down on a huge commercial property.
Well, and Stephen, we've got 18-year-olds, we got 16-year-olds, we got 25-year-olds, we got 40-year-olds that are watching this channel. In fact, we got a lot of the younger generation that are actually following along. And the questions that I always get is, when am I not too young to get started? And the reality is we've seen young people do some incredible and exceptional things. And so right now, if I had to tell you, hey, you could only start with single family real estate or it was going to be with self-storage, I'm going to hands down say single family.
Always.
And the reason why is because it is the most expensive commodity that the average American will ever deal with. What I mean by that is if you take a commodity like gum, and if you were a gum salesman, then you could sell lots of gum, but you would be making pennies on every transaction. You could sell one real estate deal and in one deal make more money in a lifetime than you could ever selling gum, because real estate is that largest object that the average American wants to own in their life. It's part of the American dream that is alive and is well. And so, on the other hand, self-storage, even though 1 in 10 Americans use it, if you had to come up with a much larger sum of money for let's say something that had 100 units or 500 units, then if you had to go through a period of time where you're only 50% rented or 70% rented, and if you weren't covering the huge expense of that right up front, you could be in a world of hurt. As opposed to a single family home, guess what happens if it goes vacant and you've got to come up with that mortgage? It's not insurmountable. There's a way for you to be creative enough to solve that problem. And so even for that reason alone, even if I was looking at self-storage for the beginner that had more profit than our 15-20% annual returns on our single families, I'd probably still recommend the single family just to make sure that you're realistic enough so that you don't get in over your head with too much.
So just to be clear, this isn't a knock in comparing the self-storage with the single-family residences. The reality is they both produce a great ROI. They both have wonderful track records. They both attract a large amount of individuals, which you want, a large marketplace. So there's a huge market for it. Really, the biggest difference I think that we're identifying is the self-storage is maybe for someone who is more of a veteran,
more seasoned,
has more assets to work with. The single-family home is something that almost everybody can get started in. The moment you turn 18, you can begin to qualify and get into single-family residential real estate. And there's a lot of things that those of you that are younger in your younger generations that you can do right now to start preparing yourself for that single-family residence. If you want someday to get into self-storage, absolutely do it. Get into that. But you're going to start most likely with single-family residential real estate.
I want to throw out one final idea for you as well. At some point, people believe that if you do real estate long enough that you graduate to commercial real estate. And this is a really interesting idea. And there's some people that if you believe that idea, like, well, I just want to skip the baby steps and I want to go right to commercial. I want to be clear. I've done commercial deals and I will still base a lot of my portfolio in single family homes. Not very different a few years ago than Warren Buffett, who went out and bought 40,000 single family homes with his major hedge fund. And the reason why is because what you end up getting is often if you can take a big investment and break it down into a lot of small investments, you can create greater security, you can create greater liquidity, you can create even a greater track record. And at the end of the day, the real estate that we do, we're often humming at that 15, 20+% annualized return. And anytime you can get your money earning over 10%, guys, over a lifetime, you can turn that into millions of dollars. That's really what we're doing, and that's why we leverage real estate, is because most investments out there, they're only producing 3, 4, 5% maybe. And so whether you're talking about self-storage, whether you're talking about real estate, 15, 20% looks good to me all day long. It pays me lots of money. It's something I'm indeed super grateful for. And so at the end of the day, I don't complicate life with doing things harder. And you know what? You might come across a self-storage deal. I might come across one, even though I have not done one yet, where it meets all my criteria and the numbers look good. And then there would only be one reason why I would hold back. I have no track record with it, but I have a track record with thousands of single family homes. So we hope that the information we've provided today is helpful for you, useful in understanding single family homes, self-storage. You finish the debate. Thank you for watching today. Listen, if you are ready to actually take action and jump into the game of real estate investing, click the link up here and let me and my team give you some options and information so that no matter where you're at in your financial life, you can get started. If you're feeling too old, if you're feeling too young, if you're saying I do or don't have the money or the credit, we got options for everybody, because right now, most important thing for you to do is to take action in real estate. Also, make sure that you are subscribed, ring the bell, and we'll keep notifying you every day about our videos when they come out.